So, Alex, thank you so much. I've really been looking forward to this.
Very excited to be doing this interview.
Well,
yes, this be fun.
New album that's coming out soon is an intro to your music for me. I got it through the Doom charts, and I've really enjoyed it. So I'd love to hear from you real quick on, who is involved in this project.
Yeah, sure. So this started as like a solo project, but I don't know. I don't really like that moniker because it implies like some form of like, form of pretentiousness. Like I don't have like a huge body of work from some other band and then I went off to do a solo thing, but it is started as like a one-man project. But even like, ever since the debut album back in 2021, I've always done like collaborations just with like other, mostly just like friends and musicians I've met through just releasing music. So for this album in particular, like I have, Jaeger Lapo, he's the producer, he mixed and mastered the whole thing. He's been doing production work for me since after like the first album was all self-produced and the results of that it could be a lot better than it is. Like I don't really know what I'm doing mixing and mastering, so I've been friends with Jaeger for a little while now, and he's fantastic at that stuff. So I was like, okay, you can handle my releases from now on, and yeah, I don't know, he just does an amazing job. But he's also he's also a prog musician himself. He plays, mainly guitar, but singing. He writes his own music. He's, similar situation to me. So he does the guitar solo on the track Fractals. And yeah, so I can't play. So yeah, if you hear that, all that crazy shredding, I can't play like that. I was just like, this is your wheelhouse. The song's in this key. Just do whatever the heck you want with it. And he came back with that solo, and it's just, yeah, it's incredible. So I gotta get him to solo and
well, that's one of the things awesome. I was going to point out. So you took care of that for me. It fits the name of the song so well. It was a really, really cool solo there. So I think, man, that's fun. I like hearing that, he has like a prog background because that's definitely prevalent on this album. The one thing that really I think I won't feel bad about saying it now because we've already talked about it over the phone, but I had told you that when I hit the first track, when I put it on Ruby Skies, I was really frustrated when I got done listening to it. I sat there and I thought, I don't think I'm going to like this project. That was a frustrating feeling that it gave to me. Not because the music wasn't good, because the music is excellent, but I just was sitting there kind of going, okay, it created a feeling of frustration in me. And I react very emotionally and very viscerally to music, which I feel very lucky to have that built into me. But that one, I felt really, really frustrated, and I didn't really know where to go with it. And I wasn't sure if I was going to like the rest of the album, but I listened through, and each song I went, oh, wait, I get it. This is a true concept album. There is a whole story happening. So often we hear someone say that they've put out a concept album, and really what they've put out is a themed album. But this one fits the true definition of a concept album, or what I think should actually be renamed a story album. There is a story here intentionally. And by the time I got to the end of it, I just had to start it over and listen through again. And now I can listen to Ruby Skies and not get that frustrated feeling. What I do still get is that feeling of anxiousness as to what's coming next. So I don't know, was that an intentional thing?
Yeah. So Ruby Skies, like, yeah, the concept, it's, I guess I'll try to give the elevator pitch because it's kind of a wacky concept, but it's pretty much just like, there's this, character, it can be a self-insert, it could be guy or girl, it doesn't really matter. But, this character, the portal hopper, kind of just frustrated with the ebbs and flows of modern life, is just, seeks to, hears of these like different portal worlds and seeks to, access the portals to visit, just all these different worlds, different cryptids and whatnot. And so that Ruby Skies track, yeah, it's really supposed to be like just kind of conveying that sense of despair and anxiety, but it's also, it's all major key too. So it's like it's like that juxtaposition that I really like, there's like that song No Rain by Blind Melon. Like it's such a happy go lucky tune, but then the lyrics are like very depressing. So it's a kind of something I was going for in this. I wanted to, I guess set the stage for the rest of the concept album, but then also sets the stage musically to be like, hey, this is going to be mostly pretty like major key, pretty, I guess happy go lucky, trippy, kind of all out. But yeah, that is interesting. You brought that up like as a track one, because I did actually hear from like another Doom Charts contributor who was like, I usually upload like stuff, like he's a YouTube guy. He usually uploads stuff from other bands that he's had on before. Obviously, with my debut album being a lot more like stoner sludge, like it's a lot. It got a pretty good reaction from the like Doom Charts crew. But yeah, when this guy reached out to me, he's like, "Look, man, I know I've covered all your stuff in the past, but like this just isn't for me." So I'm kind of wondering like if he just heard Ruby Skies and was just like, "Nope, I'm out of here." But that's kind of a risk you take with these like genre hopping sort of album things. Not everyone's going to get all the way through it. I hope people do, but that's just the reality of the situation.
I think it's true. And when I first heard Ruby Skies, it actually made me think of the Switchfoot song, "We were meant to live for so much more," which, no disrespect to them, that's a great song. And they're a great band. I saw them a couple years ago. They put on a show. But that's not necessarily the thing I gravitate towards and want to hear, So, again, excellent musicianship, great song. I just wasn't sure, okay, is every track going to be like this? And it wasn't. There's so much diversity on this album. There's so much feeling that moves through the album. And I purposefully pulled out this. I want to see if that has any relevance for you, if you know this album.
I'm not familiar at all, but it looks really cool. It looks like it fits in line with the Pool Hopper vibe I'm going for.
Yeah.
Very trippy looking.
It's Utopia by Utopia, and it's a concept album from the 70s that was very fringe. And when I was a baby, my dad played a large amount of music for me at a very young age, headphones on my tiny little head. And that was one of them. And so I realized in my early adult life that when I hear 70s prog rock, I instantly feel relaxed, like I've gotten into a warm bathtub. And it's because that's what I was exposed to in the first year of my life. And they did one, you'll have to look it up or I'll send it to you sometime, but they did a whole thing, this is an electrified fairy tale, and they tell a story through their music. And it's an album that I made sure all of my children heard as part of their musical education. And this album of yours, not to say that the music or the vocals sound exactly like it, but it has that quality. It has that storytelling. You're stepping, portal hopping, you're stepping into something else. I really, really like the names of the songs too. Yeah, I think that's really, really fun. My favorite was the Flatwood Monster. That just for some reason I keep going back to that song. There's something really a little bit more heavy and satisfying about that. I'd love to hear about the creation of that.
Yeah, no, it's cool to hear that's your favorite one too, because I feel like everyone I've talked to has had like a different favorite, and that's going to happen with this album where I'm kind of, it's kind of going through all sorts of different styles and whatnot. But yeah, no, that one, it was just like that one, like most of the songs I write start either with a guitar riff or a bass lick, bass riff, whatever you want to call them. So that one, yeah, I kind of had. I think I started with like that chorus riff, like the da 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 da, and that yeah, if there's a track later on in the track list, Escape from Flatwoods, that I repeat that little motif in like somewhere in the intro, and then I have like similar riffs to it going throughout, but it's not, it's like a different like mutation of the riff. So I really wanted to put that through line in there, because Flatwoods Monster, that's like when the protagonist, that's the word I was looking for earlier, when the protagonist, finally figures out that, I have to go to Flatwoods, meet this creature to be able to get access to the portals. Like that's where like the journey like really kicks off and gets into the portal hopping world. I mean, yeah. And then the tracks get like trippier with like liminal space time and fractals and Squonk Kingdom and all that. And then Escape from Flatwoods is kind of like the resolution, after the characters realize like, hey, I can't, this isn't, sustainable. I've got to stay grounded. Got to make my way back into the real world, where he has to face off against the Flatwoods monster, to kind of, gain access to, his earthly life. So that's like the through line I wanted to tread through that. And, yeah, I don't know. I like that track a lot, because I feel like I was saying, most of this album's very like positive, major key, happy-go-lucky sounds kind of, but then that one's like super doomy, and it kind of like sticks to like, I don't know, like a steady groove, like, for a while. So I thought that track would be a pretty good juxtaposition for things, and kind of set the eerie tone for like this Flatwoods monster character. Like maybe he's not or I don't even know if it's he or she, but maybe Flatwoods monster is not doesn't have all of the best intentions with granting the protagonist portal access.
It makes me think of in Star Wars: A New Hope, when Luke goes into the little swamp area, and Yoda tells him not to take anything with him, but he does anyway. It says that there's something ominous, something that has to be faced. The ending track, Addict, I listened to once, and then I played it again the first time, and I thought, okay, this is so pretty. It's almost too pretty. It's almost like, whoa, how did we get here? And in all honesty, it feels like something like not their Christmas work, but their other work, like Trans-Siberian Orchestra, where it's just they're pulling really beautiful guitar work and melodies, and then putting this very grand final thought together. It also gave me the idea of, I mean, even just with the name, that this main character having gone through this adventure, gone through this trial, and come out the other side of it, is now reflecting sometime later on what they've been through. It kind of ties everything together. That was my interpretation. I'd love to hear more about that song.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a pretty accurate interpretation of it. It's it's like a love song, but it's more like, I'm sorry. It's kind of like when you go through relationships and you've been through a while, maybe you're not always like, I don't know how to word it, like fully there. Your retention's not fully there after a while. Maybe you're just going through a funk or something, and that's kind of what Attic is reflecting on. It's like, while the character went through all this crazy portal hopping journey, he's reflecting on the fact that he left behind the love he had on Earth, and maybe like, hey, it's pretty much like, hey, I'm sorry, I should have been there for you more. Should have, could have done a little better. So it's a very pretty track, but it's also very like got a bit of like a remorseful tone for it, but also like a happy conclusion, because the lyrics start off like I never meant to leave you all on your own, blah blah blah, like a very apologetic, and then towards the end it just becomes like, oh, we're going to get through this together. We're going to, take all life's challenges that come to us together. So, yeah, that's what it's, that track represents, like lyrically, story wise, and just in general. In terms of song, like writing the track itself, I wrote that guitar part like forever ago. And like when I say forever ago, like I'm turning 31 next week. I think I wrote that when I was like 16 or something like that. And it's always been such a special song to me. Like it's called Attic because I wrote it in the attic of my childhood home. So like I was just messing around with some chords, like some different voicings, and then came up with like that main verse part. But I've had that song just kicking around for, I don't know, I'm not doing the math on the spot, but over 10 years. And I don't know, I always tried to like bring it to different projects or bands I was a part of, but it just never really felt like it had a home. And then I've just been like, I don't know, this album it just felt like the right place because was just so proud of like the rest of the work on the album. I was like, I gotta end it with this. So yeah, happy I finally found a home for it. Happy you enjoyed it. I'm yeah,
That
very
is so
thrilled to
cool
hear
to hear, because I think all of us, when we're musicians, we do, we're working with projects with other people, or we're working on our own things, and we do have things that kind of get kicked to the side, but they keep rolling around in our minds as, we got to do something with this. And then when it locks in and it finds its spot, it's so relieving. It's very satisfying. And, I think we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves to put things, where they ought not to be. And it's good to just wait it out. So this album in particular has a feel similar to some of the stuff Styx did. I already talked about Utopia, some BeBop Deluxe, some David Bowie, maybe some of these names you're not familiar with, but all that to say, it's very progressive rock. It's very explorative. It's very it's straightforward. I don't feel like there was any point where I was going, what's happening here? There was no crazy jazz improv that frustrated me or confused me. Very straightforward. Right. And from what I understand, your projects before were different. You had some sludge elements going on, and more doom. I find often that people go in the opposite direction. They start out with something more like this, and then they gravitate toward doom. So I'm very interested to hear how you got from there to here, if you think you can explain that.
Yeah, I can try. I mean, there's like multiple different factors. Like one, I've been working on my vocals since the debut. Like I thought the vocal performances were good enough, but I wasn't like happy enough with them. Like I had never really like been like a full-time singer before I started this project. So it was kind of just like, I'm writing all these songs, got to find someone to sing on them. But like, I'm already so close to this work. And when I was doing the debut album, it was like the height of COVID. So it's like, I could try to find the right singer and spend some time on that forever, or I could just, bite the bullet and just do it myself. But as I've, worked on my vocals more, I've found my niche has really been like that, more of like the clean singing, the tenor highs, all that kind of stuff. Whereas on like the debut, there was a pretty good mix of like clean singing and, some of the harsh, like scream, growl, whatever you want to call them, vocals. So that's one thing. Like this style of music, I think suits my vocals better. But then also, like, I don't know, I just kind of wanted to bring in more like influences from outside of just like, sludge, stoner, prog, the Macedon Baroness kind of realms of thing. Like over COVID, I got really into Bjork, and while you can't like, point to a song on this album and then say like, oh, this is obviously Bjork influenced, like, I don't know. It's more just kind of like the vibe of how, her songs, like just a super like, experimental and trippy, but also very poppy at the same time. So it's kind of what I'm going for here. And then like, yeah, like you were saying earlier, like, it is solidly prog, but it doesn't like overstay its welcome. Like all the song lengths, most of them are like between 2.5 and 3.5 minutes. I think there's like one or two that pass the 4-minute mark. Like that just comes from I'm a huge fan of the band Torch, and I love the way they have like not all their, but a lot of their songs are very punchy, very, very quick, but also very catchy, and this kind of, the kind of major key happy go lucky thing. Got to find a better turn of phrase for that, but yeah, they do that all the time, and I've been I don't know, they're a massive influence. So I've kind of taken, even if you can't hear like directly like torture riffs through this album or the previous one, like there's still just their songwriting philosophy.
Yeah,
like, I've
so
taken a lot of
there's a
cues from
lot
that.
of I would say twinkling moments, sparkly moments, things that are really bright. And any of us who, are under the age of 50, and I'm sure a lot of people over that age, we're all influenced beautifully by Bjork. Her everything is so magical, and that part comes through on this album. There's a lot of magic involved, a lot of myth in the presentation, in the story that's happening throughout. This is one of those that would lend itself really well to a graphic novel.
Yeah, that would be so cool. If I could find a way to make that happen, that would be really
nice.
cool. But,
so I'd love to hear how you got started in music.
Yeah, so it's I guess a funny story maybe, or just like a practical story, but pretty much when I started playing bass is my main instrument, always has been. And that's something I think comes through on this album more than the previous one, because like I said, didn't really know what I was doing with production on the first album. So now that I have someone who does know, I can kind of like let free and just play all the bass parts I want to play, rather than kind of having to think about how it'll sit with my novice mixing skills. Jaeger knows how to handle all that. But I started with bass in 7th grade, and really the way I came about that, pretty much, that was like 2006, 2007, like the height of Guitar Hero. So all my friends were getting Guitar Hero, and then they were getting guitars after that, and then putting them down after like a month or two. But I was like, naturally, I was like, Mom, Dad, all my friends are getting guitars and stuff. Like, I want to play guitar. And they're like, well, Dad has like a Paul McCartney clone bass in the attic. So you're going to play bass. It's like, we're not buying a new guitar. And then, I spent a couple of weeks with it, and I was like, oh man, this is like so fun, and haven't really put it down since then. Started with bass, picked up guitar, not too much longer after that. And then, like all through high school, like I was in band, concert band, pit orchestra, marching band, all that kind of stuff. So that's been, I don't know, music's always been a pretty vital part of my life ever since that moment in 7th grade, when my parents were saying, hey, guess what? You're a bass player now. So.
That's fantastic. I like to ask this question in a very particular way. I'm not asking who is your favorite band or musician. I'm asking if you can identify who or what band, so what musician or band influenced you to want to be a musician.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I guess I wasn't super like before I picked up bass and guitar. Like I listened to music, I listened to stuff on the radio, but I wasn't like the music obsessive I am now. But I feel like the first couple of bands, like, when I was in 7th grade, like Green Day was huge at the time, and it was kind of cool, like going from like the basic bass stuff to hearing what the Mike Dirnt, like the bass player, was doing there. So that was a pretty early influence, and I think that still kind of carries through, just with all the catchiness I try to inject in my songs. But I feel like the first like band I truly went like head over heels for was The Who, and I think that tracks with this album too, because obviously John Entwistle, insane bass. I mean, everyone in that band was insanely talented, but they do the whole they have 2 concept albums.
That was another one
rock
that came
operas
to my mind
too. So that was definitely
listening.
Yeah, so I just really liked. I don't know. I feel like their kind of philosophy of just like the bass going all out, drums going all out, the singers, super chesty, super high pitched, kind of. Well, not super. He's not like John Anderson from Yes or anything, but he's he does sing. His parts are super hard to sing, and then Pete Townsend just being like this songwriting genius. Like, I don't know. I've kind of taken elements, almost said elements from all 4 of those band members, and kind of synthesized them into I guess what I do today.
Yes.
So.
Yes. And The Who also came to my mind when I listened to this album. I have records right behind me of both of those bands. Just really, really, they stand the test of time. And I think this album will too. I think it has a lot of elements that are, classic or prog rock, but it has plenty of elements that are more of the moment now with the storytelling. So I think it's gonna make a lot of people happy. It's a very very fun
I hope
journey, and it's
so.
one of those
Yeah.
albums that you could just put all the push play, sit back and relax and listen to the whole thing like sitting and watching a movie. And that's one of my favorite things to do when you have an album that's so connected that it's telling a whole story. So, are you doing anything live? Are you playing any live shows?
Not yet, but eventually. I'm in like the baby stages of getting a band together now. So my brother Sam is also a guitar player. He appears on this album twice. He does the solos on Escape from Flatwoods and So
Nice.
Long Portal Hopper. And those are also two really cool solos. Like, I don't know. It was another instance where I was just like, yeah, he likes, like, he's, I don't know, sort of similar minded to me, but he's into like a lot of like power metal and stuff. So he's kind of, I don't know. We come from a bit of different influences, but it was cool to have him on this. And I just was just like, hey, here's the song. We'll write. Whatever you want to do with the solos. And they're two very different sounding solos he does, but they're. I don't know. He did a great job. He totally surprised me. I was thoroughly impressed. And he did the solo on Agarth and Riders from the debut album. That was also a pretty cool solo too. So yeah, just naturally, I want to have him on board. Having my cousin Alicia play bass. I think for this, I'm just going to have to do singing because I don't know how the hell I'm going to sing and play some of these parts, like especially the bass. Like, yeah, that's like polygonal polywag. Like or polywog. That's just, yeah, that's ridiculous. I don't know how I could sing and play that, or I don't feel like, dedicating like 20 hours a week or whatever to actually be able to do that. So that's where we're at now. Eventually want to find a drummer. I mean, that's obviously going to be key, and another guitarist, keyboard player. So it's yeah, not at the stage where we can play live yet, but hoping
I'll keep
later
an
on in
eye
the
out
year
for that. So
be
your
out there.
brother doing that
Yeah.
solo on Flatwood Monster makes sense why I like that song so much if he's got more of that metal interest, because I love metal. I'm in a metal doom band. And so what a great blend on this album of so many different interests.
Yeah, I don't know. I try to keep it eclectic, and part of that's just my own indecisiveness. Like, I don't know, do I want to be a sludge stoner band? Do I want to be a prog band? Do I want to throw a random shoegaze song in there for no reason? But I think that's kind of, yeah, that was kind of my mission with this album, was to create, take all these different influences, different sounds and whatnot, and somehow make a through line through all of that. And I think that's a lot of those like, glittery, magical sounding synth stuff really kind of puts it,